Hello everybody and welcome back to another C++ programming video, and in this video I'm going to be going over the subject of classes. Now, classes are a very important concept in C++. They are one of the, actually probably the most used way of organizing data, functions, variables, organizing just general parts of the program in a C++ program. Actually, probably in every single programming language, classes are used very widely. Now, what are classes? Well, classes are basically just ways of organizing data. Actually, primarily only functions and variables. The reason why being able to organize these is pretty much the same reasons why it's good to use structs, as I went over in the last as we went over in the last chapter. Except the main difference is that classes have more features, and they have more rules, and they and you can store functions in them instead of just simply variables. Okay, so here is a practice program that I've gone over, or this is just a practice program that I've made in order to go over classes. So usually a class is going to be named something type. Then just be named anything of what you want the type to be of. So I'll have so then we'll have this keyword, which is public, and we'll also have this keyword, which is private. These will always be in a this will pretty much always be in a class, unless all of the unless everything in here is going to be private, meaning that they can only be accessed by the class. So basically the main difference is that public means that something can only be accessed by the entire program, especially if it's a global class. But private means it can only be accessed by members of the class. What I mean is I mean that I can't just write in here healthcare. I can't just write in right here person dot health points is equal to 99. I can't do that because it is declared as private, meaning that can only be accessed by members of the class. Okay? So the reason that this is so great is because when you try and access this, then it'll give you an error, meaning that you accidentally access something that you really did not intend for the program to access. This is good because it allows you to track down errors, because let's say that accidentally you made your program and it's changing something that should just not be changed by anything other than the functions that are supposed to change it. So that's why. Anyways, now let's go over the functions. So we have just functions. They're just gonna be normal, completely normal function prototypes. And now we've gone over this. I don't know if any of you have seen something like this before, but what we're basically doing is we're making it so that we're using constants right here and a constant out there. Now how this works is it means that constant. So what these constants basically do is that they make it so that this function is a constant function, meaning that I can make no changes to any of the variables that are entered into it. So basically the reason that this is so useful is because it means that you will get syntax errors whenever you accidentally make a change. Meaning that you can go in, make that change, and then you can prevent logic errors, because syntax errors are a lot easier to track down than logic errors. Okay? And these are usually used when you don't want to accidentally make a change in a certain function, like this one. I'm not going to be changing anything inside of a function where all I need to do is print out something. Okay. Anyways, now that I'm done explaining what this constant outside does, now I'm going to explain what the constant inside does. Now, the constant inside basically just makes sure that an individual variable cannot be changed at all. Okay? Like, it literally will just be entered, and that will be it. Now, the reason for that is so that it just doesn't be changed, and the reason that we include it, usually, we write in it like this, with a class, is so that we can actually save computing power of the computer. You may not save that much computing power on your computer, but on like a small program like this, but when it comes to big projects that are like most likely 8 megabytes long, then you will save memory by doing this. Okay. Now the reason it saves memory is because when you make a parameter a reference parameter instead of a formal parameter, then the reference parameter becomes, then the function receives the address of the parameter of the actual value entered in, instead of a copy of the parameter. The reason for that is that classes have wide arrays of variables and functions defined inside of them, so that makes it a bit difficult, and it may take up lots of computing power in order to create a copy every single time that you enter this class into a function. So that is why we make things this is why we make it a reference parameter instead of just a plain old normal parameter, and just add a constant at the end. Okay. And now the reason that you would always like to have your variables private is because you don't want them to be changed most of the time by anything outside of the class. Okay. Now that we're done with this, all we do is we have these declarations. Let me just delete that. Oops. We have all these declarations, right? And we have player type, attack, and all you need to do is you just declare it like you would a normal function, but instead you just add in this. You add in player type, attack. You just add in player type, and you add those 2 colons, and that will define the function for that specific class. Okay? And you just add in whatever code, and you can just access the variables you can access private members inside of these functions. And the way that you access a variable would just be writing in the name of the variable that is of type of the class, and then you write in dot, and then you put in the health points. Alright, and then you just put in what variable you want to access. And now in terms of doing the functions, it's the same thing, but you just replace the variable with the parameters and the parentheses, the function name and the parameters. And you just declare the class that is of type of the variable like you would any other variable. So when we run this program, it will work just fine. Attack, defend, HP is 100. See? Okay. Very simple. Okay, now there is one last thing I need to go over in this example, and that is constructors. Now constructors are basically just functions that are meant to initialize variables inside of this class. They're now usually constructors are going to look something like this. You're going to write in the prototype, and all you need to do is write in the name of the class, write in 2 parentheses, and then put in a semicolon. Okay? After you do that, in order to define a constructor, all you need to do is you need to write in the player type. You should define it like any other function inside of a class, like this, something like this, with the function class or the function type, 2 colons, function type, and then inside all you need to do is write in what you want it to do. For example, I could actually remove this and then write in health point is equal to 100, I think. And keep in mind that in this case, you don't actually need to, I just run the program again, and you see that it did not return any sort of abnormal results, which is great. Okay, so that actually concludes the end of this example video. I'll see you guys in the next program exercise. Bye.